White's on his way. Professor Walter Block is the Harold E. Wirth Eminent Scholar, Endowed Chair in Economics at Loyola University, New Orleans. He is also an adjunct scholar at the Mises Institute and the Hoover Institute. Professor Block is the author, co-author, editor, or co-editor of numerous books and has contributed over 300 articles and reviews to scholarly refereed journals such as the Journal of Libertarian Studies, the Quarterly Journal of Austrian Economics, the Review of Austrian Economics, and many other publications. He's also a past recipient of Loyola's Dux Academicus Award for Excellence in Teaching. Professor Kenneth Keulman holds the Provost Distinguished Professorship and chairs the Department of Religious Studies at Loyola University, New Orleans, where he teaches courses in ethics and international relations. He has authored and contributed to numerous publications, among them the Bulletin of Atomic Scientists, Harvard International Review, French Politics and Society, and Harvard Law and Medicine Bulletin. He is also review editor of Human Rights Review. He is the author and co-author of books on topics as diverse as the political theory of Eric Voegelin, critical moments in religious history, and on European identity. Dean Roger White is the Dean of the College of Social Sciences and an Associate Professor of Political Science. Dr. White's teaching and research interests include civic education, civil discourse, civic engagement, and other courses within the subfield of political theory. At Loyola, he has received college-wide awards for teaching and service, and in 2005, he was named Professor of the Year for the state of Louisiana by the Carnegie Endowment for the Advancement of Teaching. Dr. White's research has appeared in Social Theory and Practice, International Studies and Philosophy, the Journal of Thought, and the Journal of Information Technology Impact. Before coming to Loyola, Dr. White served as a community and labor relations expert for employee organizations in California, Texas, and Louisiana. Dr. White is, very importantly, faculty advisor for this organization, for the Loyola Society for Civic Engagement. And my name is Chris Wiseman. I am an instructor in the Department of Political Science. I'm an alumnus of Loyola. I got my Ph.D. at the University of Virginia. And my day job is that I'm Associate Vice President for Development. I'm in charge of fundraising for Loyola. And I'm very honored to be here to help moderate this discussion. And I believe Amy or Twee would like to just say a little bit about the organization.
Hi, my name is Amy Pearl, and this is Twee. We're co-presidents of Loyola Society for Civic Engagement. We thank you all for coming and waiting for 15 minutes. If you haven't figured out, we're on Who Treads on Who, which is the Libertarian panel. So feel free to get pizza and enjoy the panel. And we co-sponsored this panel with the Loyal Libertarians. Do you guys want to say a little bit?
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Fast. Tomorrow will be the first meeting of College Libertarians at Loyola. It will be in Miller 324, 6 to 8 p.m., free pizza. I do ask that you email me so we know how much pizza to get. rfast@loyola.edu, and I'll write it there later on. So tomorrow, 324, 6 to 8 p.m. See you guys there.
So we'll start with opening statements from each of the panelists, and we'll go, although I'm a Wiseman, I started with W and went last my whole life. We will go in alphabetical order and start with Professor Block.
Thanks for inviting me to this panel. I just want to mention that Richard Fast said I'll be speaking at this, he'll be speaking at this tomorrow night, and Wendy Adams, who is the head of the Libertarian Party of Louisiana, will also be speaking at it. What is libertarianism? Libertarianism is based on the non-aggression principle. Keep against yourself. Don't grab other people against their will, and don't grab their property against their will. No theft, no rape, no murder, no slavery, no kidnapping, nothing like that. There are only negative rights. We all have a right not to be raped, not to be murdered, not to be enslaved, not to be harassed or whatever. And we have no positive rights. Namely, I don't have a right to any of your stuff. You don't have a right to any of my stuff. That's sort of basic libertarianism. And I think most people at that level would sort of agree. I mean, here we have a room, maybe 50 people, and nobody's grabbing anyone else's pen or computer or shoes or anything like that.
Damn it, Lewis.
Oh, Lewis is grabbing his pen. Damn. So apart from that, most people are libertarians in interpersonal lives. Even the three of us here are not grabbing each other's stuff, or I'm grabbing his notes now, but I'm just kidding now. I think the difference between libertarianism and other political philosophies is that libertarians are really rabid, serious about this, don't know contradictions to it, are consistent with these principles, whereas everyone else sort of gives support for this principle in theory, but when it comes down to practice, violated in numerous ways. Now, as far as I'm concerned, all political philosophies have to have a view on three things: foreign policy, local economic policy, and personal liberties. So what is the libertarian? What did you do? Oh, you made it louder? So I don't have to be as close. Is this better now? Okay.
To start over.
Let's start over. In foreign policy, the libertarians are pretty much non-interventionists, sort of back to the founding fathers, no entangling alliances, no searching for enemies abroad. The only function of the government is very limited government, if it exists at all, and some libertarians are anarchists. The idea here is, John Quincy Adams said, we don't go searching for enemies abroad or dragons and slaves, we just defend people in the United States. I supported my man Barack Obama against McCain, mainly because of foreign policy, because I thought McCain would nuke people. I'm really afraid of him doing that, whereas I think Obama's sort of a reluctant warrior. So that's so much for foreign policy. Ron Paul, if he were elected, he would bring all the troops home. Right now we have troops in, I don't know, 800 military bases in about 150 countries, and they call it defense? No, that's offense. That's imperialism. And that's mixing where we have no business in other countries' businesses. Economics, laissez-faire capitalism. Anything between consenting adults, including what Robert Nozick called famously capitalist acts between consenting adults. You can buy, sell, rent, lend, and there should be no laws prohibiting consenting adult behavior in the economic sphere. I mean, our friends on the left are always talking about consenting adult behavior, and they limit it to sex and drugs and things like that, where we libertarians agree, and I'll get to that in a second. But we also apply it to economics. For example, unions. Are we against unions? Well, unions have two functions. One, they have a mass quit, which you have a right to do. If an individual has a right to quit, he doesn't lose it when other people want to quit. So that threat of the union is legitimate. But then what the union does is it surrounds the factory and won't allow raw materials in or finished goods out, and won't allow hiring replacement workers that they call scabs. Well, they're using initiatory aggression against other people in their property. So we have sort of a bifurcation view on unions in favor of one aspect but against the other aspect. What about minimum wage? Well, from the economists, the minimum wage just creates unemployment for unskilled workers, namely young black people where the unemployment rate is quadrupled. But from the libertarian point of view, what you're doing is forbidding a consenting adult behavior. I want to hire Roger over here to wash my car for $3 an hour. And the minimum wage law is $7.25, and if I hire him for that, they'll put me in jail. And yet, I made him an offer. I didn't compel him to work for me, and he agreed. This is consenting adult behavior, and they put you in jail for that? Very, very bad from the libertarian point of view. Another part of it is free association. Another aspect of libertarianism is you should only associate people freely. You should not be forced to associate anyone against your will. The only problem with rape is that the rape victim is forced to associate with the rapist when she doesn't want to associate with him. The only problem with slavery is that the slave is forced to associate with the master. Apart from that, there would be no problem with it. Similarly, if Woolworths doesn't want to allow blacks or greens or yellows or anyone left-handed redheads into their store, and they're forced to, well then, to an extent, they have become slaves because their rights of free association are violated. Now, a lot of people say, well, you know, if you don't allow blacks in your store or gays or whoever, well, then you'll hurt them. Well, the economics of it, namely by Thomas Sowell and Walter Williams, have shown that the market stops this sort of a thing, that bigotry, prejudice is impotent to really hurt anyone, because if you refuse to hire, let's say, women, well then their salary goes down. If their salary goes down, you can make more profits by hiring them, so you'll outcompete the bigots. So these things are right because of free association, and also from the economics of it, we learn that you don't really hurt the downtrodden. The downtrodden are not hurt in that way. And the third is personal liberties. And here, libertarians are sort of leftish, was on the market, was sort of rightish, free market, free enterprise. Should we have laws against drugs? No, because between consenting adults, that is, not children, but adults. This doesn't mean that we favor the use of heroin or marijuana or cocaine. It just means consenting adults, if they want to buy and sell this, they're not violating the rights of anyone else, and they have a right to do it. The same thing with sex. Prostitution should be legal, not because we favor prostitution. I'm sort of conservative. I wouldn't want my daughter to be a prostitute. I don't think that prostitution is the right way for people to interact, but if consenting adults want to do it, why should they go to jail? Because they haven't violated the libertarian non-aggression principle. The same thing with pornography. Again, it's not that libertines favor it, but libertines are not libertarians. Libertarians just say you have a right to do it, not that it's a good thing. I think it's a bad thing, but I don't think people should go to jail for it. And libertarianism is a theory as to when is force justified. And it says only in retaliation against criminals, so we're not pacifists, we do agree that you can use violence, but only in self-defense. Okay, I'm told I can go for 5 to 10 minutes. That's about it. That's sort of an overview of what libertarianism is, and I look forward to interacting with my colleagues here as to how they think about it, and then we have a whole bunch of questions.
Professor Keulman.
There's Professor Block's remarks. I think it's a good introduction to libertarianism, certainly. There's a certain sense in which I agree with Professor Block that in a way we're all libertarians at heart. We all want our individual rights and liberty respected at all times. I certainly do. But for me, it's more a question of degree. And I'm not trying to waffle on that. It's just that I'm trying to instantiate a person in society. And I think libertarianism treats individuals too often as isolated, almost as free-floating monads in the ether. One of the organizations sponsoring this talk tonight is the Loyola Society for Civic Engagement. And to my left, I have the founder, I believe, the Eminent, the advisor, the Eminent advisor. One of the issues I take with libertarianism is its lack of civic engagement, as I understand it, as it's propounded often in libertarian texts and articles. And while all rational persons believe in individual rights, as I said, in the inviolability of the individual, I think the question we need to ask really is, does this trump every other aspect of human existence? Societies need to find a way to balance, I think, individual rights and the common good. And I think in a Jesuit university, I can use that term, the common good. I think it's okay, Father Mason will give me permission, I hope, to use that. Thank you. Neither individual rights nor the common good, my position, should be privileged. Both are core values, and a balance is necessary between them. The point of balance may change as new technologies develop, as national and international environments change, and new social forces arise. And we also need, I think, to find a new balance between the desire for more goods, services, and affluence, particularly because economic growth may continue to be slow and job growth anemic. Okay, here's a parallel we're all familiar with. After September 11th, we also need an approach to reconcile the desire for privacy and freedom with the need for security and safety. We're still trying to do that all these years after 9/11. We haven't totally succeeded. That's a balance, I think, that our society needs to strike, or to keep striving to strike. Libertarianism says, as I understand it, and here I'm open to correction by Professor Block, because he's the expert. Libertarianism, as I understand it, says, in effect, your social justice comes at an unacceptable cost, namely to my personal liberty. To this end, libertarianism enlists liberal democracy's most cherished belief, the inviolability of each human being as an end unto oneself, and what libertarianism, drawing on Kant, calls the separateness of persons. For libertarianism, the principle of the separateness of persons is close to sacrosanct. It affirms the underlying Kantian principle that individuals are ends and not merely means. They may not be sacrificed or used for the Without their consent, individuals are inviolable. Now, when I take a good look around at our society, it's obvious to me anyway that some combination of civil rights, democratic institutions, educational capital, social trust, and economic opportunity make me free. I'm not just free, as I said, because I declare myself to be free. But these institutions, these laws, these orders in society actually facilitate my freedom, both in terms of negative rights and positive rights, which we'll talk about later in the questions. So this is not, as I understand it, what libertarians, many libertarians, argue. They argue that economic rights are basically the only rights, and that insofar as there are political rights, they're really nothing more than a framework in support of private property and freedom of contract. So when you study the history, for instance, of the United States, you can understand why this country is kind of, you might call a Lockean paradise, uniquely suited to holding up liberty as its paramount value. But this isn't what libertarianism is arguing. It's arguing that liberty is the sole value. And to put forward any other value is to submit individuals to some form of coercion. Well, how is it possible, again, from my perspective, for anyone to end up espousing so seemingly brittle an ideology? Well, I think the leap of faith here is, no surprise, in the construal of liberty itself, which, unlike other values, says the libertarian, makes no restricting or normative claims on anyone. Liberty is instead like oxygen, invisible, pervasive, enabling. Every other value, meanwhile, represents someone else's twisted will to power, by which, under the guise of